Have you ever really stopped to think about how the electricity that powers pretty much your entire life actually gets to you? For the last century or so, it's been a one-way street, from these huge power plants out to us. But that's all changing. Right now, we are in the middle of this massive, massive transformation, a complete reimagining of our entire power grid.
And let's be super clear here. The traditional grid is an incredible feat of engineering. It electrified the world. It powered entire industries and literally brought light into our homes. It was a true 20th century marvel that became the backbone of modern society. But that marvel is now under some serious strain. The demands of our world today, things like plugging in unpredictable solar and wind power or defending against new cyber threats, are pushing this old system to its breaking point. It was built for a different time, and it's facing some very, very 21st century problems.
All right, so let's get into it. To really understand why the grid is struggling, we first need to look at how it was designed in the first place, because really its core design is the root of the problem.
The best way to picture it is like a single giant radio station. You've got a few massive power plants broadcasting electricity out to millions of homes and businesses. It's a totally top-down centralized system. And just like you can't talk back to your favorite radio station, you can't send power back into the grid in this old model.
And that right there is the core issue. When your entire system hinges on one central point, it becomes incredibly vulnerable. A single failure can trigger these huge, cascading blackouts. It's also really clunky and inefficient when you try to add things like solar and wind, which don't always produce power. The system just wasn't built for a world where power flows in two directions.
So how do we fix this? Well, the solution is basically to flip that entire top-down model on its head. It's a totally new, much smarter way of thinking about power.
The big idea here is something called decentralized control. So instead of one giant central brain making all the decisions for everyone, the new grid has tons of smaller, local brains. These nodes can make their own decisions about generating power, sharing it, and using it right where they are.
And these local networks are what we call microgrids. This definition here from the experts at CGRE really nails it. They're basically self-sufficient energy islands. Now they can connect to the main grid, but the really cool part is they can also disconnect and run all on their own. Just think about a hospital or a university campus being able to keep the lights on during a major blackout. That's the incredible power of a microgrid.
So what are these microgrids actually made of? Well, they're built from something called Distributed Energy Resources, or DERs for short. And this could be anything from the solar panels on your roof to local wind turbines to batteries in your garage. Suddenly, power isn't just coming from one place, it's coming from everywhere.
But this new grid isn't just about changing where our power comes from. It's also about fundamentally changing how and when we use it.
This is a really powerful concept called demand-side management, or DSM. The goal is pretty simple, actually. Encourage all of us to use less energy during peak hours, like that late afternoon on a super hot summer day when everyone's AC is just blasting, and shift that usage to off-peak times when there's plenty of power to go around.
And DSM works in a few really clever ways. It starts with simple energy efficiency, just using better light bulbs or appliances. Then you have demand response, where you might get a little credit on your bill for running your dishwasher late at night. But the most advanced is what's called dynamic demand, where your smart appliances automatically delay their cycles by just a few seconds to help balance the grid in real time. You don't even notice it.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But is this actually happening anywhere? What does it look like out in the real world?
Oh, absolutely. Down in Queensland, Australia, utilities are already doing this. On really hot days when everyone's cranking their AC, the utility can remotely cycle those units on and off for really brief periods. Now, for any one person, the change is totally unnoticeable. But when you do that across thousands of homes, those tiny adjustments have a massive impact, preventing blackouts and keeping the whole grid stable.
That success is really exciting, but it also kind of hints at how complex this all is. A transformation this big isn't going to happen overnight. And let me tell you, it comes with its own set of pretty significant hurdles.
So while the advantages are super clear, we're talking a grid that's more resilient, more scalable, and way more efficient, the path to actually getting there is, well, it's complicated. This is definitely not just a simple upgrade.
And the challenges here, they're not just technical. Yeah, you have to figure out how to get all these different microgrids and devices talking to each other. But you also create a much bigger target for cyber attacks. You have to manage just enormous amounts of data. And on top of all that, Our old regulations, which were written for a one-way power system, need a complete overhaul.
But here's the good news. We're already developing the tools to solve these exact problems. AI and machine learning are creating smarter ways to coordinate all these moving parts. And new technologies like blockchain, which is basically just a super secure digital ledger, could provide a safe and transparent way for you to trade energy directly with your neighbors. How cool is that?
So all of this brings us to one final, really crucial question. The technology is here, and the grid is getting smarter literally every day. It's becoming more resilient, more efficient, and honestly more democratic. The real question is, as we shift from just being passive consumers to being active participants in our own energy future, are we ready for that change?